सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen तो.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो, सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
A very important story came up on our headlines, front page headlines, mostly lead or second lead, and then sort of disappeared. It disappeared mainly because a much bigger story, a much juicier story emerged. That is the Adani controversy. So when the Adani controversy is going on, the world's third richest man, the big short seller attack, etc., the company brings out the tricolor, polarized India, then ranges itself either on this side or on that side of Adani. When that becomes such an overwhelming story, we somehow tend to forget something else that is very important, and that is playing out. That is the India-Pakistan river waters issue. So the story that made the headlines 3-4 days back was that India had told Pakistan that the Indus Waters Treaty needed to be looked at again, if not fully renegotiated, in the light of experiences and learnings of more than 6 decades now. This treaty had come into being in 1960. Now, since 1960, this treaty has worked all right. There have been some issues here and there, but the treaty has worked all right. In fact, the treaty has been honored by both sides, even during the wars. Even during the wars, India and Pakistan have fought 2 full-fledged wars, 65, 71, some part wars here and there, particularly Kargil, some warlike situations like Parakram, which went on for some time. Also then periods of great anger, particularly after attacks in Uri, Pulwama and 26/11 not to forget. And yet the treaty has stood the test of time, and the waters have continued to flow as they were committed in the treaty, or they've continued to be utilized or used for irrigation as was ordained in this treaty. So this treaty is a very good example of how sovereign states, and there is no third party involved there. The only third party, if you can call it that, is the World Bank, because the World Bank it is that had enabled this treaty and also helped organize funding for many things that came as a result of this treaty to enable both India and Pakistan to utilize their river waters better. Remember, in 1960, in the 50s, during which all the talks leading up to the treaty took place, in the 50s, both economies were predominantly agrarian. None of the countries had industrialized, and the waters of these rivers were very, very, very important. So what are these rivers? There are eastern rivers and western rivers. So Punjab, usually you say Punjab 5 rivers, but actually there are 6 rivers. And what is east and west? The eastern rivers are the ones that India gets to utilize the waters of fully. So India can utilize all of the water in Satluj, Ravi and Beas. These are the 3 eastern rivers of the Punjab river system. Then western rivers of the Punjab river system, that is Indus, Jhelum and Chenab. Those 3 rivers, Pakistan was given full rights over the waters. Of course, India was allowed under the treaty, and these are specified amounts, allowed to use a certain amount of water for irrigation, because after all there is a lot of Indian territory through which these rivers run, so those territories have to be irrigated. So roughly about 7 lakh, in fact precisely 7 lakh 1,000 acres of land India was allowed to irrigate with these river waters, but also for drinking, etc. Otherwise, India was at liberty to use these rivers for anything else, these waters for anything else except to consume water. So for example, you could do as much of navigation over these rivers, run cruises, whatever. If you can run cruises in Himalayan rivers, doesn't happen like that, but I'm just making a notional point to you. Fishing and stuff like that. So all that you can do. What it also means is that you can utilize these rivers for generating electricity, but you cannot store this water. Now, to generate electricity, as technologies have improved, turbines have improved, it has now become much easier to generate electricity from run-of-the-river projects. Now, in the past, you needed these humongous reservoirs, and also when you have hydroelectric projects, when you also store water for irrigation or drinking, etc., or for flood control, then you have to build very large reservoirs. But now, increasingly, first of all, large reservoirs are in bad odor. Nobody in the world likes anybody building large reservoirs now, and the countries also, big economies, usually do not find it so much worth their while unless this is to support a really arid or dry zone, as say the areas that Narmada river's waters serve. So increasingly now, particularly for rivers coming through the mountains where inclines are available, the idea is to generate power through run of the river dams. That's precisely what's happening in our new dams which are being built in Arunachal Pradesh on tributaries of the Brahmaputra. Having said that, India it is on whose side these rivers have the most inclines, because India, the Himalayan side from where these rivers come, all of them don't emerge from Tibet, barring Satluj and Indus. The others emerge from within. For example, Jhelum emerges from a spring not that far from Srinagar. Both Ravi and Chenab emerge from Himachal Pradesh. Now, these rivers, most of the mountainous course that these rivers follow, leave Indus aside. Most of the mountainous course that these rivers follow falls in India. So India has much greater possibility or prospects of using these rivers for power generation. No problem when it comes to the three eastern rivers, that is Ravi, Byas and Satluj. India has in fact now trained, exploited, dammed and DAMMED, dammed, and also generated a lot of power from those rivers, power, irrigation, drinking water, everything. Whereas India has a challenge with the three other rivers. Can you use the inclines? Can you use the sheer falls and gorges in the Himalayan region to generate power from them? Now, when you generate power, there is a little bit of storage, tiny bit, which may be temporary, because your turbines have to keep running. The turbines can't always be that, look, when water comes, my turbine will run. So a little bit of that happens, a little bit of interruption with water flow does happen. And that is what the Pakistanis are complaining about. So the current dispute is about a dam. It's a dam called Ratle Dam, Ratle. It's an 850 megawatt dam. Ratle is on the river, Chenab river, in Kishtwar district on our side of Kashmir. So Kishtwar district, Chenab river, 850 megawatt dam. This dam itself has been delayed for a long time, which is what always happens in our countries, particularly in the government system. But the fact is, now in 2021, after long delays, Government of India made money available for this dam. Government of India, Government of Jammu and Kashmir, I don't think there is such a big distinction there, because Government of Jammu and Kashmir earlier had allocated or allotted the construction of this dam to GVK, the infrastructure group. That group had trouble. There was litigation, arbitration, etc. Again, the usual story in India. So the project got delayed for a long time. 2021, the government provided the first bits of money and construction has started. And lo and behold, the Pakistanis have gone in complaint to the World Bank. Not to the World Bank, Indus Waters Commission. Now, what do the Pakistanis want and what is the issue right now? India said, all right, if you have a problem, then then call in neutral expert. You call in neutral expert. We'll go by what the neutral expert says. We think we have a good point and there will not be a problem. The Pakistanis initially accepted a neutral expert. They also asked for a neutral expert. But within months they said, no. Not a neutral expert, we'd rather have a court of arbitration. Now, under the Indus Valley Treaty, there are three remedies provided. One, the countries talk amongst themselves bilaterally, they sort things out, or they can have a neutral expert who can then give a verdict or a view and both countries then follow it like good children. And third, you have a court of arbitration. Court of arbitration will have two members from India, two from Pakistan, one chairperson appointed by the World Bank, etc., etc. That's a more complicated process. That's more like a court process. The problem there, the trick in that process, and that is what India does not want, that a court of arbitration has the powers to injunct the party. It has the power to injunct the party constructing a project. So Court of arbitration can say, all right, India, you are making this project. We are looking at your view. We are looking at Pakistan's argument also. Until we do that, there is injunction. There is a stay order on what's going on. India does not want that. Pakistan obviously does want that. That's why India said that, look, we will go with neutral expert. We don't want a court of arbitration. World Bank, fed up, everybody gets fed up when India and Pakistan fight because these fights don't go anywhere. So they got fed up and the World Bank said, look, let us stop both processes. So they stopped the COA process, which Pakistan had got started, and also they stopped the neutral expert process, which is what India would have settled. Both got stopped, but once again, both countries kept fighting. And as they kept fighting, at one point last year, the World Bank said, all right, let both processes go on simultaneously, which means the neutral expert also meets. Neutral expert was a man called Michel Lino, and also a chairman was appointed, and COA was to start functioning, that is Court of Arbitration, not Committee of Administrators as the Supreme Court appointed to run Indian cricket. No, this is Court of Arbitration between India and Pakistan. India did not like the Court of Arbitration, nor did India like the idea that the two processes were happening simultaneously. So last week, a meeting of the Court of Arbitration was held. India did not attend it. In fact, India has not even nominated its two members for this Court of Arbitration. So that is the reason now India has said, look, this has gone on for too long, right? We don't intend to stop any of your water, but you create trouble anytime we try to produce a little power essentially for the people of Kashmir. All our projects have got delayed like this. All the projects in the past, Baglihar, Salal, Kishan Ganga, all the projects in the past have got delayed for ever, and costs go up and people suffer, and this is not right. So maybe times have changed since 1960, since 19 September 1960 when this treaty was signed. So we need to renegotiate this treaty, and also we need to amend this treaty to fit with the modern times and modern requirements. So what is it that India would want? There is a lot written on this. I will share with you a story by my former colleague Pranab Dhal Samanta in Economic Times, which has the most clarity on this, because he explains to us how essentially India needs amendments in Article 9 of the treaty. Article 9 of the treaty talks about how to bring about resolution if there are differences of opinion, but there will always be differences of opinion. So India wants a hierarchy of these resolution mechanisms. So hierarchy means, number one, you try bilaterally, आपस में मिलके बात कर लेते हैं, some give and take हो जाएगा. That doesn't work, then you go to an expert. Even after that doesn't work, you go to a court of arbitration. This idea that one side wants court of arbitration, the other side wants an expert, right? And both processes go on simultaneously. That is not something that India wants. And that is the reason India has now upped the stakes on this and raised these demands. Now I know that every time something happens between India and Pakistan, everybody starts saying, oh, India should abrogate the Indus Waters Treaty. Why are we letting all these waters go? So first of all, India has the fullest rights over the waters of the three rivers which belong to India. That is Satluj, Ravi and Beas. Now, all right, in the larger Punjab water system, this isn't that much water. This is about 17-18% of the total water available. So total water available to India is about 40 point something, say for simplicity's sake, 40 billion cubic meters. How much 40 billion cubic meters is? I don't know. You figure out, but I think it's enough to drown many cities, many great cities. So 40 billion cubic meters India gets. But how much does Pakistan get in this deal? Pakistan gets in this deal about a little over 5 times as much. So Pakistan gets 218 billion cubic meters. So they get a lot of water because those are waters of the Himalayan rivers that come out in Kashmir. One from Ladakh, one from Kashmir, one comes out from Himachal Pradesh, Chenab, but then goes into Kashmir and then goes into Pakistan. Those three rivers empty their water into Pakistan and into ultimately the Indus water system. In fact, even the eastern rivers from India ultimately go and empty their water in the Indus water system. And the Indus water system then empties out in Arabian Sea off Karachi, and that's where in a place called Kori Creek, actually the Indus enters Indian territory again, or I'd say Indian coast again, and that's in Gujarat. So Gujarat, interestingly, because rivers are part of this great majesty of nature. Rivers don't need visas or passports to travel from one country to the other, one geography to the other. Rivers make their own courses. So this Indus River, in the end, although it does not enter any of the Indian plains, it just goes from Ladakh, parts of Kashmir, into Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and then into Pakistan. But as it's meeting with the sea, it comes a little bit into Gujarat, and that's also a place where India and Pakistan have a dispute. Again, referring back to the Indus Waters Treaty, because India believes that Pakistan is training the river, or at least some channels of the Indus River, in such a way that territories in the Run of Kutch on the Indian side get flooded and more salt water comes into those areas. And that is what has happened as a result of Pakistan building something called Left Bank Outfall Drain, LBOD, and India has been protesting about that. So this is a very complex treaty which has stood the test of time. Now the project that's under contention now, that's Ratle 850 megawatts. It was announced in 2013, and you see now it's now 2023. So construction has only just started, and roadblocks from Pakistan have come in. In between, many things happened. 2013, India started, Pakistan protested. 2015, a neutral expert was appointed. Pakistan agreed. In 2016, Pakistan withdrew from its acceptance of the neutral expert. They said, we don't like it. You don't build the dam. You don't build the project. Sometimes dam becomes misleading because these are run-of-the-river projects. August 2016, Pakistan asked World Bank to appoint a court of arbitrators. October 4, 2016, India again said, we want neutral expert. That's when I told you World Bank stopped the process. They said the two things can't happen simultaneously. And then last year, April 6 in 2022, they allowed both to happen simultaneously. That is the pain point with India now, because what India does not want is that a lot of our money has already got caught in this. We have already invested money in this. Project is now in an advanced stage. Construction has started. We don't want another stay order that will keep the project pending for 5 years. So again, even strategically, India's approach would be to continue constructing. So you strengthen your case by changing the facts on the ground. That once a dam is made, इसके बाद में आप क्या करोगे? कुछ लेना देना है. We can do some dealings here and there, but the dam has got built. You can't come and dismantle the dam. And again, similarly for the Pakistani side, the concern is to not let India change the facts on the ground. So India has struggled all this while to build these power generating dams. As I said earlier, India has no claims over this water. This water goes into Pakistan. So what is it that Pakistan is anxious about? So Pakistan is saying, number one, that if you have the ability to either change the course of these rivers or train these rivers, as it's called, although I think training a river would be an obscenity. To think of that will be an obscenity and an exercise in human hubris. But you can do funny things with the river. They say that, look, once you have this ability, you can determine when to deny water to Pakistan or when to push too much water into Pakistan. So say in wartime, you can either starve us for water or you can flood us with water. Now, none of these reservoirs are so big, but insecurities continue, because if the two countries have such a lot of distrust of each other, what will happen? A good example of how this works out is the Kishan Dam. Now, Kishan Dam is just a 330 megawatt dam. I say just a 330 megawatt dam because Ratle is an 850 megawatt dam. Now, Kishan is a tributary of Jhelum River. It is located on the Indian side. When Kishan goes into Pakistan, it is called Neelum River, Neelum. You see a lot of clashes take place between Indian and Pakistani troops in Neelum Valley along the line of control. Now Neelum River is where Pakistan wanted to build their own project, let's say hydroelectric project. That was called NJP, Neelum Jhelum project. So where is the problem? India is building a project in Kishan run off the river. India is not keeping any water. Then you have the Neelum River, which India has nothing to do with, because the same river, Kishan has gone into Pakistani side or Pakistani control side, you call it Neelam River, you can do what you want with it. But their complaint is that you are diverting water at Kishan Ganga project. You are taking away water from Kishan Ganga project. India says, look, I may take it away, but I'm giving it all back to you. So the net water that you're supposed to get is the same. The Pakistani complaint is, yes, you are giving it to me. I'm not saying you are keeping it, but you are diverting this water to another tributary of the Jhelum River, which also ultimately is coming into my territory, but it is not coming into the Neelam River. So the Neelam River, which is the Pakistani name for Kishan Ganga, that does not have as much water as I need for my project. So you are giving me the water, but you're giving me the water through another pipe or through another tributary. So these issues keep coming up, and these are the technical issues involved in this. Now I know anytime a war-like situation takes place, anytime a terror attack takes place, there is a clamor कि पाकिस्तानियों को बंद कर दो, right? पाकिस्तानियों को बंद कर दो. Let's stop giving them all water. Let's abrogate the Indus Waters Treaty. Now these are sensitive things. We have to be careful about what we wish should happen. Now you can abrogate the Indus Waters Treaty. First of all, what do you do with the waters of the rivers in Kashmir? These are very powerful Himalayan rivers. Where will you divert this water, right? That kind of mess you cannot make with nature, that you can divert the course of these really powerful Himalayan rivers. Even if you were like that, right? Even if you thought like, say, the Chinese communists like Xi Jinping, and you thought you could do that, then the moment you do that, what is to stop the real Xi Jinping from doing it? So remember, the Brahmaputra, the system comes from China, because in river water politics, there is always an upper riparian, a lower riparian, a lower riparian, a lower riparian. As I had explained to you, with Indus, the uppermost riparian, if I may use that expression, is China, because it originates in Tibet. Then the next upper riparian is India. Then the next is Pakistan. And yet, before it goes and meets the sea for its final entry into the sea, the river again touches India's lands. India becomes the lowest riparian, or Gujarat in India becomes the lowest riparian in the Indus system. So if India can do this to Pakistan, China can do this to India, because China is already building some dams on these rivers. See, Satluj rivers comes from China, Indus rivers comes in from China. You might say the Ganga, Beas, Ravi, no problem, but Satluj, Brahmaputra, Indus, the Chinese have a lot to play with. So these are rules of the game which everybody must follow, and if you don't follow, then you don't expect others to follow, because there can sometimes be somebody more powerful than you. River water issues are very important. In fact, I was reading up on Egypt just last week, because I was working on this Cut The Clutter episode on LCC, and I figured that one of the biggest problems that Egypt has, Sisi's country has right now, is over the waters of the Nile River. And these are the projects that upper riparian countries, Sudan, Ethiopia, they are building on the Nile River, and Egypt's existence also depends on the Nile River, and that's a cause of great tension between those nations. So where these tensions are resolved, Indus Waters Treaty has served its purpose. We should see and understand the value of this, and we should also understand how complex and how messy would it be if we thought of abrogating it. Now, you would find also that Pulwama attack, Uri attack, some minister said, Nitin Gadkari once said he had water resources, some others after that we will stop all waters for Pakistan, right, from our rivers. That immediately caused consternation in Pakistan. How can India do this? See, we always said that Indians were going to do this. Nobody had meant to stop any waters out of the rivers coming in from Kashmir, out of Pakistan's share. There is an issue with rivers that belong to us in India under Indus Waters Treaty. That is, once again to repeat, Satluj, Beas, Ravi. Now India has mostly dammed those rivers and detains most of its water. So India's total share of the Indus Punjab water system is 41 billion cubic meters. India already collects or uses about 38 billion cubic meters. So you might say about 6-7% India is underutilizing. If you see other water that comes up, say in a mass during monsoon times, etc., then at this point, India has about 9.3 billion cubic meters of water that India is not utilizing from these rivers. For that, some projects are already underway to utilize this water also in India. And if India utilizes this water at home, there is nothing that Pakistan can complain about, because these are India's waters. So I note that there are three projects that are on. I don't know at what pace they are moving. So one is the Shahpur Kandi Dam on Ravi, not far from Pathankot. Then there is a second Ravi-Byas link. And third, there is Uj Dam in Jammu and Kashmir. Again, geography is so fascinating. Uj River emerges from Jammu and Kashmir. It emerges from Jammu and Kashmir, then it meanders, it goes into Pakistan, and it comes back, and then it joins the Ravi River. So while it originates in Jammu and Kashmir, it enters Pakistan, but because it meets the Ravi River, it's part of the Ravi system. Only India has the rights over its water. Once again, if you see the map of India, map of Punjab, for example, you will see the Ravi River and the Satluj River. Large parts of it run along the border between India and Pakistan. In fact, in many places they make the border. So once again, there is an issue there. The Indian side complains that the Pakistanis harvest or exploit a lot of the groundwater right next to this river stream, although the river stream belongs to India. So those tamashas go on. That's why I thought I will explain this to you in some detail, that these rivers always existed. These rivers existed before the new lines on the map came into being in 1947, right? So both countries have had to learn to live with them. And rivers are rivers, they have their own might. They'll go a little bit this way and a little bit that way. And these will be ongoing issues that the two countries will need to deal with, and that's why a treaty always comes handy. And of course, any treaty, particularly a treaty which is more than 6 years old, can be amended, can be improved in a manner that it suits one side or the other, or ideally in a manner that suits the people of both sides. Now, before I let you go, I have to tell you a story. Now, what is it that I'm going to display to you? This is a scarf. Beautiful, isn't it? This is a scarf from the Sangtam tribe of Nagaland. The Naga tribes, as we know, all have their distinctive weave. So this is Sangtami weave. Now this has been sent to me as a very loving and affectionate gift by Setrikam Sangtam. Setrikam Sangtam is a wonderful young man who has built an NGO that works with farmers in the villages in a very backward part of India with tribal villagers, teaching them techniques of modern agriculture. He and his NGO are the recipients this year of the Rohini Nayyar Award. So we sent a reporter, Monami Gogoi, with a camera person, Disha Verma, to do a feature on them. I'll share a link of the feature with you. Please see that. And I will share with you also a little video that Setrikam recorded for me. So let him explain what this scarf means. And you know what? Once you listen to Setrikam, you will know what this shells means. So I'm no leader. I'm no warrior. I don't know what I've done to deserve this. Thank you, Setrikam. You are a wonderful person, and I'm so privileged to have you as a friend. And as I said, I'm neither a warrior nor a leader, but because you've sent it to me, I'll wear this scarf. Nevertheless, I hope you like it on my shoulders.
This is a muffler of Sangdam tribe. This muffler is normally worn by a warrior or someone, the only eminent person have to wear this on, because the shells, the muffler without shells can be worn by anyone, but these shells are sign of the warriors, the leaders. So yeah, this is a small souvenir muffler of the Sangdam or SG.